I never imagined the end of my marriage would begin with silence. Not screaming, not accusations, not shattered dishes or slammed doors. Just one photograph. I spent 3 weeks deciding where to place it. On the kitchen island? The dining table? In the bedroom where we had shared countless dreams? In the end, I hung it on the living room wall, directly across from the front door. There was no way she could miss it. Then I waited. At exactly 7:18 p.m., I heard the familiar sound of Lisa's car pulling into the driveway. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Every instinct told me to confront her immediately, to demand answers, but I forced myself to stay calm. The front door opened. "There you are," she called cheerfully. Traffic was terrible. Her voice sounded effortless, almost comforting. Months ago, hearing it would have made me smile. Now it only reminded me how convincing a lie could sound. She stepped inside, kicked off her shoes, and set her purse on the entry table. Then she looked up. Everything stopped. The smile disappeared from her face as if someone had switched it off. Her eyes locked onto the framed photograph hanging on the wall. She didn't blink. She didn't breathe. For a long moment, she simply stared. The color drained from her face until she looked almost sick. Her lips trembled, and one shaky hand reached for the wall to keep herself from falling. I watched every second without saying a word. The picture showed her wearing the red dress I had bought for our second wedding anniversary. She was laughing, genuinely laughing, as another man rested his hand on the small of her back. It had been taken in the lobby of a boutique hotel. The same weekend she told me she was spending at a spa with her closest friends. "What?" she whispered. "What is this?" Her voice barely existed. I finally stood up from the chair near the window. "I think you're the only person who can answer that." She looked at me, then back at the picture, desperately searching for another explanation. There has to be some mistake. I almost smiled. For months, I wanted to believe that too. When she started coming home late, I blamed work. When she became protective of her phone, I told myself everyone deserved privacy. When she stopped looking at me the way she once had, I convinced myself every marriage had difficult seasons. I ignored every warning because trusting her felt easier than accepting the truth. Until one afternoon when I hired a private investigator. Part of me hoped he would prove I was paranoid. Instead, he handed me a folder that destroyed my entire world. Photos, hotel receipts, messages, dates, times. Every page confirmed what my heart had already begun to suspect. The affair wasn't a mistake. It was a second life. I folded my arms. "How long?" She lowered her eyes. I asked again, quieter this time. "Lisa, how long has this been going on?" The silence felt endless. Finally, tears gathered in her eyes. 6 months. 2 words. That was all it took to erase years of memories. 6 months of lies. 6 months of fake business trips. 6 months of goodnight kisses that suddenly felt meaningless. I walked toward the picture and gently removed it from the wall. Holding it between us, I pointed to the man beside her. "What's his name?" She hesitated before whispering. "Matthew." The name echoed through the room. "Matthew," I repeated. "The man you chose every time you said you were meeting friends." She broke down crying. It wasn't supposed to happen. I shook my head. No. Forgetting an anniversary is something that isn't supposed to happen. This took planning. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. "I love you," she cried. "Please don't throw everything away." Those words hurt more than the betrayal itself, because if she truly loved me, none of this would have existed. Without another word, I placed a thick folder on the coffee table. "Go ahead." She slowly opened it. Every photograph, every receipt, every text message, page after page. By the time she reached the end, her hands were shaking uncontrollably. "I can explain. You've had 6 months to explain." Her knees gave out and she collapsed onto the floor. "I'll end it tonight." I already ended it. I reached into my pocket and placed a small envelope beside the folder. Inside were copies of the divorce papers my attorney had prepared. "I've changed every password. Your access to our accounts has been removed. You'll have until tomorrow evening to collect your belongings." She stared at me as though she had never truly known the man standing before her. "Please," she whispered, "don't do this." I took one slow breath. "I didn't." "You did." For the first time that night, the room fell completely silent. I walked upstairs, packed the last of my belongings, and moved into the guest room. Sleep never came. As dawn broke, I heard the front door close. She was gone. Only a handwritten note remained on the kitchen counter. I never finished reading it. The months that followed were painful, but they also changed me. Therapy helped me rebuild my confidence. Friends reminded me I wasn't alone. Little by little, the anger faded, replaced by something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. One afternoon, I received a message from another victim of the affair, Matthew's wife. She had uncovered the same truth only days earlier. We met for coffee, not to dwell on revenge, but to remind each other that betrayal says more about the person who cheats than the one who was cheated on. Eventually, I learned Lisa and Matthew's relationship collapsed almost as quickly as it had begun. Strangely, I felt no satisfaction. Only closure. The photograph still sits in a small box at the back of my closet. I don't keep it to remember the betrayal. I keep it to remember the day I finally stopped ignoring the truth and started choosing myself.